Hi there everybody, I'm Amanda Gordon with the Facial RX here in Spring, Texas. I wanted to do just a quick little introduction to this series of Dermalogica Institute videos. These are not my videos. I did not film these. They come directly from the CEO and instructor of Dermalogica Institute. These videos probably are more than 20 years old, but they do give some great examples of old school techniques as well as techniques that we still use today. I do apologize for the blurriness and graininess on some of these videos. There's not much I can do about that, but these are excellent teaching videos that I just wanted to make sure that are able to be shared and that you have the information in order to properly implement some of these techniques. All right, let's take a look.
The final technique we're going to show for oily and congested skin is surely one of the most popular, direct high frequency. Now, we finished our extractions, we've gone over the skin with a post-extraction solution, and if you're going to use direct high frequency, you need to make sure that anything you've used on the skin did not contain alcohol, because alcohol is flammable, so for obvious reasons, you don't want the skin to be at all damp with anything with an alcohol base. Now, high frequency involves applying a glass electrode or inserting it into the handset of the high frequency apparatus. The glass electrode is extremely fragile, so be careful with it, because if you drop it, it's going to break. And when you insert it into the handset, I'm going to recommend that you use a towel to cover it, because we've had accidents in the industry where people have inserted the electrode and it breaks in their hand. So just be careful of that. This particular one that we designed has a screw-in base, so it's easier, but most of them are just a slot-in base. With high frequency, you have a glass electrode, and inside the electrode is a gas. The gas is filled under a vacuum, and it's either an argon gas, which will glow violet, or it's a neon gas, which will glow orange. For germicidal and bactericidal action, we use the argon gas and the mushroom electrode, as it's called. Now, when we use this on the skin, we're going to insert the electrode into the handset. This one, as I say, you can screw in, but otherwise take a towel and just use the towel with the electrode, so there's absolutely no risk of it breaking in your hand, okay? So we're just going to screw that into the base. When we ignite the high frequency, you're going to see the gas ignite inside of the glass electrode. As the gas ignites, electrification occurs around the electrode. And when the oxygen, which is naturally present in the air around the electrode, is electrified, it becomes ionized and creates ozone gas. The ozone quickly breaks back down into active oxygen, but for a few moments, ozone gas is produced around the electrode. The ozone gas is extremely drying, antibacterial and germicidal. So we use this after extractions or over acne lesions. Now, because it's an electrical current and it's a radio frequency, it doesn't rely on an attached electrode with the client to be somewhere on their body, like galvanic current. So it can actually pass through the air. And so when you're using high frequency, it's very important to remember that you can spark just by touching the client, even though your other hand may not be connected to the apparatus. I'm just going to hang the apparatus up for a moment, and we're going to increase the amount of gap between the skin and the electrode by putting gauze on the face. Now, the gauze should be dry in this application. You're going to see wet gauze used a little later with iontophoresis, but this is dry gauze with high frequency. I'm going to begin by putting eye pads on, and I'm using them dry, not wet, because water conducts electricity. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to apply a little bit of benzoyl peroxide, which is great as on its own as an antibacterial and drying solution, on areas of congestion or areas where we extracted. Benzoyl peroxide, think of the name peroxide. Benzoyl peroxide releases oxygen, so it intensifies the amount of oxygen available for the Tesla current to convert into ozone. So I'm taking my benzoyl peroxide solution, applying it onto the back of my hand first, and then just going to apply it in specific areas. Now you can mix benzoyl peroxide into a gel mask if that's easier to apply. However, you're not going to get the amount of drying on the skin that you would if you leave the skin without the gel on. I'm then taking my 4-inch square of gauze and I'm going to apply that over the skin in a double layer for the sparking technique. We have 2 4-inch squares of gauze, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to open them up. And there's 2 ways you can use this. Now, I'm using the gauze, remember, so that I've got an easy glide on the skin. Remember, the skin is dry other than the benzoyl peroxide, which is so light it doesn't provide glide. I need glide on the skin so that the glass doesn't skip on the skin. So I've got 2 ways I can do this. I can either apply the gauze over the face and just peek it over the nose and mouth. If I want to increase the amount of spark gap, I can do double gauze. Or if the client's claustrophobic, I can just use a folded square of gauze over the area that I'm going to work. So let's just look at both of those. Here's the Tesla current. I'm just going to switch it on. I'm going to test it on myself first. Okay, and you can see the gas is igniting. It's an argon gas. It's glowing violet. Always touch the electrode and then bring it to the skin. Never just put the electrode on the skin, because remember, it's a radio wave. It travels through the air. It'll jump to the skin. So make contact with the electrode, place it onto the skin, and then keep it moving over areas that you want to have that drying and bactericidal action. So that's a really simple technique. See how the gauze allows it to slide? The gauze also absorbs any oiliness or debris coming from the skin. But if the client is claustrophobic, another technique that you can use is, instead of doing a full face gauze, you can just take your folded square of gauze, place it onto the area, finger onto the electrode, and then use that. Now, remember, that folded square of gauze is still allowing the current to pass through it. It's got air between the gauze, and it's providing a good 1/4 inch spark gap to the skin. And the greater the spark gap, the more ozone and the greater the bactericidal action will be. So either way, a layer of gauze or a wad of gauze for the Tesla current.